Hi, my name is Andreas Johansson. Most folks call me AJ. I'm a captain paramedic with the Corona Fire Department in Southern California, and I like TAC. It's been a few years since I presented at Offsite. After doing presentations back-to-back for a couple years, it was my desire to get more public safety folks up here talking about their programs and their success. So I took a back seat. This year was no exception, but a final call came from Nate, said there were some vacant 30-minute time slots right after lunch. So I got back up here. But I don't want to talk about innovation and integration. Sure, we continue to find novel ways to use TAC in public safety, but I started to think more about the journey of TAC in public safety. And I started to think about how I got here and what sorts of things took place for the stars to align. There are similar TAC origin stories out there. These stories are worth telling. So if you're familiar with TED Talks, you know their mantra of ideas worth spreading. Here's my attempt at telling the story of those that came before me. And if you caught Corey's keynote yesterday, you got a pretty good view of how far we've come in public safety. But what did it take for all that to happen? I will tell you it took some pretty determined folks to spread the word. And for every contact they made, this is the typical answer. I'm not immune to having saying this, never heard of it. I felt like I was in the know. With wildfire applications, I'd been a situation unit leader on an incident management team for 8 years when TAC came across my lap. I thought, well, if it's so good, how come I don't know about it? If it's so good, why aren't people using it? It led to skepticism. But the bottom line is, you don't know what you don't know sometimes. It's impossible to know everything. This pie chart and quote from former SecDef Donald Rumsfeld highlights this fact. Proving the value of TAC used to take some serious persuasion. Public safety folks were faced with a lack of exposure to their communities. TAC was not at trade shows. There was no sales force spamming your inbox, no vendor goodies, no swag bag. And when you did find TAC, you went to some website called tacmaps.com. I could not find a screenshot of the old website, but it looked a little sus, as the kids say today. If you remember tacmaps.com, then you can really appreciate what tac.gov is today. But before all this, TAC was like a faint whisper. People were talking about it, but it was barely audible. So when I was thinking about this topic of this presentation, I started to think about what had to occur for TAC to become a reality in public safety. Like many improvements or changes that occur in our lives, some are driven by tragedy. How many people in this room know who this is? Who is it? It's Ralph Nader, that's right. A lawyer who in 1965 authors a book on the unsafe practices in the auto industry. The book is so well received, within less than a year, President Lyndon Johnson signed the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act. That's a lot to say. That set into motion the creation of new federal agencies and the first set of federal motor vehicle safety standards. One of the first things this new organization tackles is to reduce occupant ejections from vehicles. They mandate safety belts to keep people inside the vehicles. They also tackle keeping the doors shut during an impact, improve the locking mechanism. This pin or bolt right here becomes known as the Nader pin or Nader bolt. Tragedy is how we get here. 9/11 occurs. We go to war. 3 months later, ODA 574 with a Dept Air Force Combat Controller Alan Yoshida is involved in a terrible accident. Sorry, guys. Alan meant a lot to me. A bomb falls on the right coordinate, but not the intended target. Ryan McClain mentions this incident in the keynote yesterday. Three Green Berets are killed. 25 Afghan soldiers also perish, and Alan Yoshida is badly injured. The Secretary of the Air Force tasked Alan with working on a project to prevent this sort of tragedy from occurring again. The output some years later is an Android application to solve the friendly force identification and target correlation problem. The app is eventually coined the Android Tactical Assault Kit. 12 years later, a tragedy occurs closer to my line of work. The first 5 years of my professional fire service career, I served with the El Carrizo Hotshots on the Cleveland National Forest in Southern California. On June 30th, 2013, 19 members of the Granite Mountain Hotshots from the Prescott City Fire Department in Arizona are killed while fighting the Yarnell Hill Fire 30 miles south of the city. There are stories about how they perished. Nobody knew where they were. There were aircraft above them full of fire retardant, but no one could see them through the smoke. The Granite Mountain Hotshot fatality is my North Star event when I get asked the why for TAC. I want to preface a few things for the rest of this story. The U.S. Forest Service are their traditional hotshot crews, and very few, if any, city fire departments staff hotshot crews. Prescott City Fire Department having a hotshot crew was very unique. The Prescott National Forest, which surrounds the city, also have a crew called the Prescott Hotshots, which in 2014 had been around for 41 years. I don't think I could get more passionate about TAC and safety for wildfire, but now my 20-year-old son works on Prescott Hotshots. You could say it's a little more amplified now. So back to the story. In 2013, the Granite Mountain Hotshots are still a very young crew. If you've watched the movie Only the Brave, you see how the formation of the crew played out. Prescott is a small, tight-knit town. The burnover rattles the community. Like most tragedies that reach this level of exposure, people start to think about what could prevent it. DARPA stepped up to the plate and offered a new technology called MANA radios, coupled with an Android app to see if it could prove valuable. In 2014, Marshall Frith and the team bring this kit, which includes not ATAC, but the Navy's APAS Kill Switch app, civilianized and rebranded as Flash. These are deployed on Samsung Note 2s in Juggernaut cases, custom chest harnesses to hold the persistent system wave relay MPU-4 radios, and bring out AvWatch with an aircraft. When DARPA shows up to the Prescott National Forest, they're told to leave. In all fairness, the Prescott National Forest and the Forest Service in general just weren't ready for this. Nobody was ready for this in the fire service. DARPA moves to work with Prescott City Fire Department staff to gain some insights and get some feedback on the technology. They go out and do some testing. A few months later, Persistent Systems returns with a film crew to get some broader exposure. This news report is still available to watch on YouTube. So despite seeing the value, it's not adopted. It just was not ready for prime time. Josh Lucas of the Prescott Fire Department sends it to the Phoenix Fire Department FEMA Urban Search and Rescue Team to see if it might fit their needs. Remember that little detail. The following 2 years have two parallel efforts that are completely siloed from one another. The Colorado effort with David Talley, pretty new out of the Army and now working for ParGov, and David Zader at the Boulder Fire Department. And in Arizona, we have the U.S. Forest Service effort with Justin Baxter and Eric Aslan. These will eventually collide and end up with a synergistic output. I'll start with Arizona. In 2015, Justin Baxter is working in the U.S. Forest Service Aviation. As a former Prescott hotshot, he had personal friends that died on the Granite Mountain burnover. Remember, I said Prescott is a very small, tight-knit community. In 2015, Justin is working on the National U.S. Forest Service AFU program. Their goal is to track where retardant is dropped and evaluate if it was effective. So Justin and his team are posted up at the Prescott National Forest, having to work out of a break room. Eric Aslan is new to the U.S. Forest Service as a radio tech. Eric has 10 years prior experience working on radar for the Air Force and National Weather Service. He takes a job in Prescott for the weather. He wanted something warmer. He knows nothing about fire. So he sees Justin Baxter and his team having to work out of a break room and offers the extra space in his radio room. They start to tell Eric about their program. So some good old-fashioned hospitality will change Eric's professional life forever. Remember, I said Prescott is a small town. Justin Baxter runs into Josh Lucas from Prescott Fire Department and tells him about his new role in the AFU program. Josh tells him, hey, I wonder if we test with these devices we test with DARPA, see if they might help you. He makes a call to Phoenix Fire Department where they were last sent and find they are still sitting in boxes. He gets the kits to Justin. As Eric tells me, Justin comes into my office fully kitted up. The MPU-4, the Note 2, the Juggernaut cases, etc., and says, hey, Eric, do you think you can figure out these radios? Eric figures out these radios are made by Persistent Systems. Eric gives them a call. They are a little sus. They want to make sure he is authorized to have them and make a call to Marshall Frith. Marshall is thrilled to hear the kits are being looked at again and tells Eric about a different application called ATAC. You can see in this screenshot, Eric figures it out. The very next year, Justin takes Eric on a fire in Idaho to really prove this out further. They do it again in 2017 on the Modoc National Forest in Northern California. This screenshot is Eric connecting to an RC-26 over the MPU-4 and attack rover on a wildfire. In the meantime, in Boulder, Colorado, Dave Vitale and Dave Zader are making their own waves. It was Zader's dad who worked at SOCOM as a communication specialist that first got him connected with TAC. Just like DARPA, the Granite Mountain fatality gets the attention of SOCOM and wonder if an Android mapping solution they are testing might help. Zader's dad said, I have a son who works in wildfire. Let me see if he will give it a look. Zader meets some folks in PAR about the program and starts to share its value in wildfire. They take it up a notch. As mentioned before, David Talley, somewhat fresh out of the Army, now working for PARGov and very familiar with ATAC from his former unit, links up with Zader. He works with Zader to build out a real-life exercise, complete with aircraft from AvWatch and persistent system radios. Multiple news networks come out to capture it. These early efforts from Dave Zader captured the attention of another early public safety adopter and evangelist of TAC, Brad Schmidt. Brad wastes no time. He quickly sees the value and starts fielding it and giving briefings on it all over the United States. Colorado adopts TAC and starts to build the foundation for it eventually becomes COTAC. In 2009, he's invited to TAC Offsite. In 2020, the U.S. Forest Service selects Brad and his team at the COE to begin testing TAC for the U.S. Forest Service. If you've been out in the lobby, you can see how well this has gone. So this is where I come in. What I thought was a sales call was something completely different. Okay, remember Eric As on the left here. He's been out on a rampage, building slide decks, spreading the word as much as possible. He comes across an article with a friend of mine in it, Todd Tuggle, pictured in the middle, who's talking about working with the Air National Guard MQ-9s and RC-26 sensors for wildfire. Todd and I have deployed to wildfire incidents together a bunch of times while attached to incident management teams. Eric gets a hold of Todd and starts telling him about ATAC. Todd, of course, starts off the same way I did. Never heard of it. If it's so good, why aren't we using it? That whole line of thinking. He says, look, I'm not on a fire, but a friend of mine is. He really likes technology, and his name is AJ, and here is his phone number. I get a warning shot from Todd saying, hey, this guy's gonna call you. He's kind of pushy. If you know Eric, you know what I'm talking about. I have no idea if he's selling something or what. Eric eventually calls me. That's me on the right. Honestly, I couldn't find a good picture, and I'm not into selfies. And where am I? I'm on the largest fire at the time in California history. I start off with the same stuff. Hey, I'm in the know. Why don't I know about this? If it's so good, why isn't the Forest Service using it? Yada, yada. But I listen, and I get very intrigued and decide, okay, I'm gonna do this. The problem is, I need an Android. So I had to my local Walmart and get the nicest Samsung tablet I can get. So I get back to the hotel, open up an email with instructions from Eric to download this, install this, and some training videos. This is how Eric signs off. He is right. I was blown away. I am told to link up with the National Guard. Let's get the MQ-9 video. Keep in mind, I briefly have talked with the Guard guys while on this assignment, but they seem cool enough, so what the heck. So I get to the Guard to talk about what I want to do. They have heard of ATAC, don't know a ton about it. We get on a call with Eric, some guy named Doug Tool Witherspoon at March Air Force Base, and start talking about what we need to do. And all I can think of is this image in my head. Eric is some hacker kid. For those in the room that are not old enough to know who this is from the movie War Games. Look it up. So the next day, we get this. Live video in ATAC, jaws hit the floor. It's such a hit that CAL FIRE flies Eric out. We do some briefings at Northern California Operations Center, and we get to a couple fires to brief the command staff. I return to Corona and tell my tech partner in crime, Mike Leckleiter, all about it. A few months later, by sheer luck, I'm subbing on another incident management team, and we deploy to the Camp Fire in Northern California. This goes down as one of the most deadly and destructive fires in modern history. On the drive there, we get everything connected with the MQ-9. And another crazy coincidence happens. Justin Baxter shows up with the Boeing In Situ Scan Eagle UAV, and we integrate that into TAC. Things just keep lining up. I learned about civtac.org, the ATAC Reddit page, and the ATAC Map YouTube channel, which at the time had been up for 4 years prior to TAC landing across my desk. Remember those things you don't know? I get introduced to its creator, Ralph Kohler. Reddit today has 13,000 members, and his YouTube channel today has 10,000 subscribers. So we adopt TAC at Corona Fire, and we do a commercial with Samsung. The Evangelizing starts. Dave Zader starts a public safety-oriented Slack channel for TAC users. Today we have over 500 members from all over the world. Josh Fuller, who we all know and love as the ultimate curated GitHub site for streaming maps, starts a Discord site in early 2020. That site has over 12,000 members today from all over the world. I start the TAC Syndicate, named after my favorite downhill mountain bike team, the Santa Cruz Syndicate. I wanted a landing page I could send the public safety community to learn about TAC. I started a YouTube channel by the same name where I could show off public safety uses of TAC. My friend Jared Vandelheuvel from Texas EPS makes a map of agencies represented on Slack. Things are starting to spread. This is a look at ATAC searches on Google from 2010 to present. You can see the spike in February of 2022 that coincides with the invasion of Ukraine. Disaster drives the need. I think Eric Rolls drove that home yesterday. I just did a Google search on TAC public safety for this presentation, and this is what shows up. Suffice to say, it did not look like this in 2018. And now we have this inaugural event put together by Ken Rabin, who latched on to TAC just a couple years ago. The QR code or the URL will take you to this site. I want to clarify the dates are October 1st through 3rd. And so I end with where I began. TAC is an idea worth spreading. My worst fear is someone not knowing this life-saving tool exists when they need it most. I need you all in this room to look for those opportunities to spread the word. Let's get to them before they need it. TAC is the way. Thank you.